Hello? Hi.
Hello.
How are you, Rita?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for joining. It'll be a very casual, comfortable conversation, similar to what
Okay.
you've experienced in the past. It's
I guess
9 o'clock my time.
yeah.
Thank you for adjusting. I was like, oh, I'm on. You was like, wait, it's 1 o'clock. So I was like,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
I was like, wait,
So
I know
thank
it's at 2. I'm like, maybe I don't know. Did the time change
no,
real quick? I was like, wait a second.
and it was a simple, like, I was like, I Googled it again and I was like, okay, 9 a.m. EST. Oh, yes, it is 1 o'clock. Like, so yeah, it made sense. But
Yes.
thank you
Welcome
again to the Connecting the Diaspora series. Just as I mentioned, I'm Kalima Borson Frazier. I'm the co-founder of Black and Couple TV. And we are welcoming our first guest. And thank you for joining us. I just wanted to mention thank you to our sponsors, My Basics, All Natural Body Care. They're all natural body care line that's making this series possible. So shout out to them. Thank you for that. So today we're just going to jump right into it. Today we have a special guest. Thank you for joining us, Rita. Rita is a Ghanaian American interdisciplinary artist and founder of Hene, an organization that is dedicated to preserving the chieftancy and traditional culture of Ghana. So again, Rita, thank you. Welcome to our series.
Thank
We're so
you.
excited to have you. And we just wanted to say, tell us a little bit more about yourself and tell us about Hene.
Yes. So yes, hi everyone. My name is Rita Mawuena Benissan. I'm the founder of Hene. So I was raised in the United States. After that. And I think being raised in the United States, I want to get maybe half of the experience. So in a way, I wanted to see how could I actually be able to get the full experience, or even how do I participate within some of the things that I see on these photos, or my parents have explained to me, or even my family members have said, okay, this happens. But how do you get that experience from not actually being there? And usually you just have photos or you have videos or you have those conversations with your parents or your elders or your friends. And so from there, I was, trying to figure out who am I as an artist, who am I as a Ghanaian artist, or even just as a Black artist. And so within using different mediums like painting, fashion, textiles, photography, grad school, going to grad school definitely helped me to actually get into a deeper idea of how am I as an artist and how do I fit in. And so one thing about grad school that definitely helped me was that I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, and in Wisconsin, or in Madison in general, is less than 2% of Black students. So in a way, it's just like, in a way, you have to either be very confident within yourself and how you portray yourself on campus, because people might view you as one way, or maybe view you as another, where you can be yourself. And so I was doing this Black aesthetics photo series where I was photographing different students on campus and how they describe their Blackness within their identity, even if it's African American, Caribbean, or being from the continent as well. How do they showcase their identity of their Blackness? So it's either how they do their hair, with what clothes that they were wearing, or even just how they stood, their posture. It really it was different from from them maybe being in a classroom. They kind of, if they're in their own space, they're able to really be themselves. And so from doing from doing that photo series, my professors were like, okay, Rita, when are you gonna do yours, or what describes you? And so I was like, that's actually very difficult, because I think seeing other people and photographing other people and having those conversations were very important. But then again, I don't think I was really having those conversations with myself. And so it really helped me to, kind of push me like, okay, really, who am I within living in the United States, but being Ghanaian? And how do I even see myself? And really, what connected me to my, my culture? What connected to me to my heritage, even to my family lineage? And so I think one thing living in the United States, but then connection, but to being Ghanaian is always the, kente cloth. or,
Yes,
the waist beads, or, or even just jollof rice. So those are typical things that
exactly.
people say, like, those are your connections. But I felt that
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to have something different. And so within like my own family, on my mom's side, my grandfather was a traditional chief in the Volta region. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know too much about him. And he passed away a couple of years ago. So I never really got to meet him as well. And especially, I haven't,
Mm-hmm.
grad school actually brought me back home. So I wasn't able to actually go back and forth to Ghana as, many other of
Mm-hmm.
my friends would have. And so in a way, I was
Mm-hmm.
experiencing Ghana, experiencing my family lineage as an outsider. And so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, my grandfather was a chief. So what's in Ghana, or what's within the continent that really describes chieftaincy or the power of a chief or a royal in our culture?
Mm-hmm.
And so the umbrella stood out to me. And so I always see
Mm.
photos of these umbrellas being used in festivals. I always see umbrellas being used even as displays, but I didn't really understand the importance of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then even when I was looking them up, there's really not much information except for photos that you'll see within maybe the earlier 2000s until now,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't really see
Mm-hmm.
many historical images. So that
Mm-hmm.
kind of got me into like, okay, Rita, so how can you find more information? What do you need to do? And even the
Mm-hmm.
writings about the umbrellas were from the white perspective. So it wasn't really,
Mm.
knowing about the umbrellas, knowing about the importance from a Ghanaian perspective. And so
Mm-hmm.
grad school actually brought me the opportunity to go back home. So I had like my first homecoming, or my homegoing, to Ghana. So it
Dang.
was, I believe, 3 or 4 years ago. And so from
Mm-hmm.
there, it was for me to, reintroduce myself to my family, because I didn't grow up with them. And then now
Mm-hmm.
actually putting names to faces, but then also
Mm-hmm.
researching. And so me and my
Mm.
parents, we went to Kumasi and we went to the
Yeah.
Minshaw Palace, and we were able to talk with many of the historians there. And I think they were just surprised that, a girl from, who's yes Ghanaian, but is living in the United States, is wanting to know about the umbrellas.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, okay, this is interesting. But they literally spent hours and hours with me describing the umbrellas, the importance of
Mm-hmm.
it, the, because even the umbrellas in general are used
Mm-hmm.
for the protecting of the chief or protecting of the weather. So shading them.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you'll see it moving. But then they were actually telling me that also the umbrella mimics the movement that the chief is walking, or the footsteps that the chief is
Okay.
walking or taking.
Wow.
So even if
Okay.
the chief is dancing, the
Mm-hmm.
umbrella is moving with the steps that he's taking. So
Got
literally,
it.
the umbrella has much more than just a protector as an object, but it's also something
Purpose.
that's an identifier. So when you're
Wow.
going to these different ceremonies, like there might
Mm-hmm.
be thousands of people, maybe hundreds of chiefs, but like
Mm-hmm.
what region they're from because of the umbrella that they have, because the
Yeah, it's very
colors, the symbols
distinctive.
on top of the
Got it.
umbrella. Yeah.
Got it.
Yes, and then
Wow.
even the sizes. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
the sizes also talk about the hierarchy. So it talks about like maybe not so you have the king, and then you have like the
Mm-hmm.
chiefs underneath, and then you have like the queen
Mm-hmm.
mothers as well. So it shows the different
Mm.
hierarchies that these chiefs will have to that region. So they all have different positions. So they have like the war chief, they have the land chief, development chief, and then maybe like the
Mm-hmm.
head chief that's like surrounding. So kind of like the mayor, you have like the prime minister, and those type of
Exactly.
roles in a way. Yes.
Got it.
And so
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, and
That, like, you've dropped so many gems. I really wanted to hone in. Thank you. Like, I really
yes,
wanted to hone into, you were mentioning like from your work in college and how it's progressed so
yes,
flawlessly, I would say, throughout what your life work is right now. You spoke
yes,
about like the significance of, going back to Ghana and connecting with the chiefs, the natives there. And then also your
mm-hmm.
upbringing of having Ghanaian parents, your
Yes,
grandfather being a chief. Tell us a little bit about like the significance. You were mentioning the significance of the umbrellas. How is the
yes,
colors, like what has been some of
yes.
the actual communication that you've had with the natives there and their experience as being Ghanaians? Have you spoke to
Oh
them,
yeah.
and can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think just like me, everyone sees the umbrellas, but in general, in
Mm-hmm.
Ghana, they actually get to experience it and actually see it in person than just in photos.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Mm-hmm.
there's not much of the importance of why the umbrellas are used. So sometimes people, I
Mm-hmm.
think in Ghana, people just know like the umbrellas are used that to protect the chief, or if you see an umbrella, there's a chief or there's a royal.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way, it doesn't go deeper to that. And even like the history of the umbrellas, you don't really see any historical images beyond,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the pre-independent days, no post-independent
Mm-hmm.
days. And so even with
Mm-hmm.
Hene, I've been able to really build up a really big database of historical images from the early 1800s to the 1900s, where people
Wow.
in Ghana have not actually seen, because in
Yes.
Ghana, none of the photos, like Ghana doesn't own any of the photos. So many of
Wow.
like historians that came to Ghana, but maybe in the earlier days, or missionaries that came to Ghana own these photos, but Ghana itself doesn't own them. So in a way, like they're very excited because they're seeing something that they know it's like the importance, but they don't really know
Mm-hmm.
too much of the value of it, except that
Mm.
it's for a chief or it's for a royal person. Yes.
That's so interesting because I think like in terms of like what I know that you've seen and discovered like firsthand, and that's alarming to me that like there isn't ownership of the actual archives. How are you, as you said, you're collecting from 1800s onward. How have you been able to collect and curate these items from your organization? What tell us a little bit about the process that you've been going through. I love
Yeah.
that we're even absolutely having to have this. Like, I think
Yes.
one of the things that I wanted to mention is like your return to Ghana. How has been that
Mm-hmm.
process? Can you
Oh yes.
illuminate a little more about that for us that are in America? Like, what has been your experiences? Some things that have been helpful to your organization, but also you being a native Ghanaian
Mm-hmm.
and how you're immersing yourself
Yes.
there now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think my experience is a little bit different, or unique in a way, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, even the diaspora, they might have come back to Ghana when they were younger. So in a way, it's
Mm,
like they're going back home, continue going back home, but it's just something like they might go during Christmas or during the summers. But for
yeah.
me going back home was at a later age where I actually got to. I feel like I actually value, the importance of coming back home, because
Mm,
sometimes when you're younger, you're just like, oh, my parents are going, are taking me to Ghana, but you're not really
hmm.
understanding like the importance of it. But I feel like at an
Exactly.
older age, you have a better importance because now you're actually understanding what's going on. You're able to
Hmm.
relate to maybe many of the people that you're connecting with, maybe via social media, or even your cousins are at an older age where you can like, okay, now I understand maybe the problems that are going on in Ghana, or even opportunities that are in Ghana that now that you can actually
Hmm.
take opportunities to do. And I think for me
Hmm.
too, which kind of helped my move to Ghana, is that my parents
Hmm.
live here, and so and a
Hmm.
lot of majority of my family lives here. So yes, I did
Oh,
not
that's
grow up
beautiful.
with them, but it's been a contact every single day, every single
Hmm.
morning, and then now coming back home and then actually seeing them face to face, and now and like reliving with them again. And so it was a smooth kind of return. I didn't really have to worry about
Nice.
like finding a place to live, or
Oh, that's
finding like
beautiful.
like some of the stress of moving back to Ghana that my
Exactly.
people might experience, like, okay, how do I move around, where I'm going to live,
Hmm.
where I'm going to work. But I
Hmm.
think with me it was unique because my parents are here, so in a way I moved back with moved back in with them. You know, my project is striving to as well, so I had many
Hmm.
connections to be able to say, okay, how as an artist and also the founder of Hene, what
Hmm.
exhibitions, what part of the art scene can I get into so that I'm able to display my work, but and also
Hmm.
display the history of Ghana in general too. So it's kind of like killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Connecting me as an artist, but then also being able to, have this opportunity to display some of the historical images that I've collected into different
Hmm.
exhibitions, or even just having conversation with different historians, or different individuals who are doing the same thing. Because I think, especially with social media, there's a lot of archivists that are coming or emerging. And, there's some that's been working, much longer than, within the last few years. So not of archiving on Instagram or even just on social media about Ghanaian history or about Ghanaian culture, or even just in African culture in general.
Exactly.
So I think it was a good time for me to come back because I just felt that everything was connected.
Yes. I think that that's something that drew me to your story, is essentially the way that you've collected and synthesized the Ghanaian culture through this like niche cultural gem, which is the chieftancy, and kind of like demystifying it in a way. Like as myself, like I'm a Ghanaian American. I grew up in America, in New York specifically, but I do have family that's in Ghana, and it's like the theme and the essence of this series is to try and bridge that connectivity for those of us that are in maybe the UK, America, but also still have that linkage to Ghana. How do we merge and connect together? And I think the beautiful thing about your work is like it's synthesizing that. So like speaking on the thread of synthesizing, like what has been your like curation process, or what is, I would say, what's one of your favorite pieces that you've seen through your work with Hene?
Yeah, so I mean, as a graduate student, I was able to have access to a lot of databases in general. So I was able to, be connected to other universities' databases or museum databases that had these archives, right? But then as I started collecting and start posting, then my audience came, and then that's why I was like, okay, people are saying, oh, you posted my grandfather, you posted my grandmother, or my great grandfather, but they didn't know too much information, but they knew the name, the surname. So like, oh, that's the same surname as mine. Or like my mom had told me about this person, but I don't know any photos of him or much information. Or there'll be people who say like, oh, Rita, like I actually have this photo, like you can also post it. And so in a way, it's like even though, yes, I kind of started the foundation of building this archive, but now we're actually retelling the story of what chieftancy means to us. Because now we're going back into our family albums. We're going back into, the collection that our parents might have, but it has dust on it right now. And so we're able to go back into all these books and all these photos, these lost memories in a way. Because in a way, if you think about it, they're lost memories because in a way, like, yes, you might see them on your walls or your family's houses or old photo albums, but sometimes you don't really go, how many times do you even go back into these photo albums and say, okay, who is this person? Why were they wearing this type of kente cloth, or, the jewelry or the regalia that they were wearing? Why was it so important? So I think within, what I'm doing with Hene is like, yes, I'm building, chieftancy art, like chieftancy archive for Ghana, but truly we're all together within our Instagram family, we're actually rebuilding our archive together, not just for one person, but as a whole country. And it's not just people in Ghana, but it's people literally worldwide that are now going back into their photo albums and saying, okay, I found this photo. Or even if the professor like went on a school trip to Ghana, they're like, okay, well, my professor did research here in this region. Let's borrow this collection of archives and place it so that it's not just one small, database. It's actually a big database that can be used for anyone and can be accessible to anyone. Because accessibility is literally the key for Hene. Because I really want to make sure that everyone, especially in Ghana, have access. Because these photos are not accessible to everybody. So how do we bring back the accessibility?
Yeah. And then and speaking to that, I've done some community work within the States here, but essentially what has been, and when you speak about accessibility, it just hit me in terms of like connectivity, like for instance, technology, like with the submission process. What is something that you found has been a successful way of actually, collecting and making it more accessible? Has there been any partners or things that within Hene that you've used?
Oh yeah, so I think for accessibility, the phone. At first, I used to like scan my books or scan different documents, But then
Mm-hmm.
when COVID happened, like we were kicked out of our campus, so we had to be at
Mm-hmm.
home. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have too much of a big scanner. I have my phone that can now take, as good as photos that a camera could take. And so I
Yeah.
will literally just use my phone to take the photo and then post it. But
Got
one thing I've been also working to now that I graduated, is that, actually emailing different libraries at different universities and telling them about my project and saying, okay, this is what I'm doing. These are my goals. And then
Mm-hmm.
and just see if they're interested. Because even for me, I've reached out to like the University of Iowa, their
Mm-hmm.
library database, because one of their professors literally spent many of his years in Ghana and in the Bono
Wow.
region. And he,
Oh wow.
and within thinking about database and accessibilities, a lot of times people don't really document the names or the position that chief was. But this
Mm-hmm.
professor literally wrote down every single name, the
Wow.
position, the literally every specific information that you could find
Wow.
about that person. He had it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just seeing, for them to see what I was doing, they're like, oh yeah, just, make sure just to credit us. Because truly
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I think people, institutions are willing to give us these photos, but they just
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that we also credit where the photos came from. Because a lot of
Exactly.
times then you're able to kind of open the door, like, okay, now if we know that this professor went to Ghana, what other professors
Mm-hmm.
went to Ghana? What other professors, what was their experience? Who did they meet? What research were
Mm-hmm.
they doing? Because
Mm-hmm.
then you're able to outsource more information. Because even with my process of Hene, I could spend hours and hours looking for just one one photo or one name. But then once I
Mm-hmm.
find that one photo, it will connect me to many more photos that will literally
Mm-hmm.
bring out more information and databases that are connected within that group. So I think like metadating is really important
Mm-hmm.
too, because then it's like, okay, how do people classify a photo? Because sometimes people just say, oh, a Ghanaian chief or Gold
Mm-hmm.
Coast chief, because, before independence, we were the Gold Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what are they classifying? What words are they using? So those are the words that will help you find more images, or those are the words that are going to be the keywords to find more information. Or it will just take you somewhere that you will just, it'll get you better to a goal that, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like at the end you might find one photo or you might find one name, but at least you're finding something that is important to add up to the database.
I think you're like educating us with like the library science process too, because it's
Yeah.
like a lot of folks are like, well, how do I even like, if I have this photo, how do I share it? It leads you down
Yeah.
like a rabbit hole of so much more
Oh,
adventure,
yeah,
which
it's
is
true.
beautiful. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
ask also too, like, what supports have you? What has been the support process from your
Yeah.
perspective with Hene within Ghana?
Oh yeah. So for me, I'm very consistent with email. So when I started my project, I used to like reach out to everybody, even if it's just
Great.
influencers or people that were in the history, like who are historians, or anyone that was really about traditional culture and displaying it and doing exhibitions, or head of different organizations. So literally, I would just send a whole bunch of emails telling them about my project. And even if they didn't reach out or they just liked the message or they were like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
good job, at least that was like the first impression. But
Mm-hmm.
then I was able to get in contact with one of the administrators for the Ministry of Chieftancy. And
Wow.
so he was able to really help me push out my project even more. I was able to attend one of the Ministry of Chieftancy meetings in the Central Region
Wow.
for the House of Chiefs in the Central Region. And then I was
Mm-hmm.
able to go to the National House of Chiefs in Kumasi. And even though it wasn't like a presentation, but at least it was an introduction for me to introduce myself to different chiefs and then even
Mm-hmm.
just see where those lead to. So from there, I was
Mm-hmm.
able to connect with some of the chiefs, and then sometimes they will invite me to different events, even if it's a ceremony, a funeral, just for me to have that experience and really see like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is what goes on within the chieftaincy. Because even for
Got it.
me, I think even like collecting these images, I think also experiencing these events will also help, because then you're able to say, okay, now you have a better
Yeah.
understanding of what was going on in this photo. And even
Mm-hmm.
like their palaces that they have for the chiefs or the king, it's like it's a bigger museum in a way, or a smaller
Yeah.
museum for that chief, because they have photos everywhere.
Wow.
And at least for them, they know the importance of these photos. They know who exactly when this photo was
Mm-hmm.
taken, the names of the chiefs because it's just the lineage or the family lineage that carries on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been really my big support. And I think with
Wow.
especially with Instagram now too, some
Yes.
chiefs are not like social media savvy, but there's some that are because even before they became a chief, they had their own lives. And
Mm-hmm.
so some of the chiefs, like one of the chiefs that's really connected with me, he was a videographer. So
Wow.
he actually has a YouTube channel where he actually showcases some of the chieftaincy events in Kumasi or within the
Mm,
Ashanti region. And so being able to
beautiful.
connect with some of the chiefs through Instagram is a great way because in a way, whatever events that are happening or someone that's documenting them, they in a way now trust Hene to showcase these
Mm-hmm.
imageries for them, or even like some of the families or children of the chiefs will reach out to me and said, oh,
Mm-hmm.
my dad is doing this or my mother is doing this, let's see if we can
Mm-hmm.
collaborate together so people can actually understand or have a bigger understanding of why this is so important, you know.
Yeah.
Because
That's.
I think too, like a lot of people would love to, we are all connected to our royal family because of our surname. Because even
Mm-hmm.
if you think about the stool, like Sihini means installment. So all of our names are connected to a stool name. So in a way, we're all
Wow.
connected to a lineage of a chief in general. But like
Mm,
sometimes we might not know who that chief is. So how do we find that information out? And
yeah.
so with being able to connect with the children, they're able to see, okay, well, this person is doing it in a very modern way where people who
Mm-hmm.
are our age or different generations can have a better understanding in their own way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes not everyone's going to use Instagram. So how do you connect with
Exactly.
Facebook? Or not everyone's going to use Facebook or social media. So having a website so people can still click on that website and get the information.
Exactly.
Yes.
I think that's so important what you were mentioning about the connectivity and the accessibility because I think like media has been such a great bridge of that, social media, the
Mm-hmm.
ability for us
Yeah.
to have this conversation and for anyone to tune in and watch it. But essentially,
Mm-hmm.
like what I love what you said is that you've gained such support with the Chiefs that
Yeah.
they are actually, trusting you to come in and actually see their curation of
Yeah.
their museum. And I think that that's
Yeah.
something that's like really unique that I love that with the work that you're doing. And like you said,
Yeah.
like see Hene and tell us a little bit about like see Hene, is that the Akan Ashanti Twi
Yeah. Yeah.
form
Yep.
of installment? Okay, got it.
Yes.
Because I think
Yeah.
that a lot of folks ask like I know what it means, but it's like, what does
Yeah.
installment mean?
Yeah. That's true.
And can you tell us a little bit about that, like the installment? Like, what is the
Oh
significance
yes.
of that?
So before anyone becomes a chief, they go through a process, which is very private. So that's something I'm still learning about as well.
Mm-hmm.
Within, even if it's a ceremonial where it's just that chief, well, that person is about to become a chief, and then the family or the past chieftaincy will say, okay, these are the rules that you will need to follow. These are the things you need to learn before you become a chief or before you get installed. Even if it's
Mm-hmm.
just the history of the region, the history of the lineage that
Mm-hmm.
you're about to embody. Because a lot of, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, many of the chiefs, they had their own lives. Sometimes they were,
Mm-hmm.
even you study in the United States or study in the UK or study in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and then someone passed within the past chieftaincy, and then a family member or someone will say, okay, it's your time now. And so
Got
then
it.
your whole world changes. So you're just like, okay, how do you
Mm-hmm.
adjust to that? And so, because I think too, we always have to think about like chiefs are regular everyday people. They had
Exactly.
their own lives, they had their families, and so now they had to relearn everything about, okay, now these are the rules that we have to follow. They can't really mess
Mm-hmm.
up.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that they might even have to give up for the chieftaincy
Mm-hmm.
because it's just a new role. It's just like
Exactly.
even like the president can't be doing his
Exactly.
regular days that he would do before he
Yeah.
was the president. Now it's like a new life that he has to now say, okay, this is my new role that I have to
Mm-hmm.
partake, and these are the things I have to learn to partake in it. I feel like even for myself, even now that CHNA was a project for me, but now something that is much bigger. Now there's
Mm-hmm.
new things that I have to relearn, and also have to make sure that I'm adjusting well, because even if it's talking to a chief, there's a way that I have to present myself even if it's presenting my work to people, because presenting my work in the United States is much different than presenting my work in Ghana, because
Exactly.
you know, people in Ghana actually understand, okay, this is what she's doing, even if they might not understand the full potential of it. They can say, okay, well, we know about the chiefs, we know about the royal families, so how do you connect this to everyday people in Ghana? And United States, they already have this information. All the schools have this information, so I'm not bringing anything new. It might be different to them because it's actually a Ghanaian presenting this information instead of maybe a white professor or white historian or curator presenting this information to a gallery or to a museum or to their students. So in a way, like, I have to retell the story or have different ways to showcase Hene to the world. But how does it connect to different people from different regions? Because even if you think about, you know, the continent, we all have different chieftaincies in each of the different countries. So Nigeria has chieftaincy. The Ivory Coast also has a chieftaincy. Some of them are very similar to the ones in Ghana because there's the Khans are also in Ivory Coast. So some of the regalia, some of our, you know, the stools, some of the processes that we do in Ghana are also done in Ivory Coast or even done in Togo, especially within the Volta region.
Exactly.
In Togo as well.
Got it. Got it.
Even the umbrellas, you'll see umbrellas everywhere, but the different, even the being honest, there's the umbrella was actually a gift from a Dutch prime minister in 1704.
Oh.
And but you'll see that in a lot of different countries, even Asia. So it was because of trading. So whatever the trading routes that they had within that earlier time, you'll see many of the umbrellas being, you know, presented as a gift.
So
so that's why you see a lot of.
So the umbrella was not native to Ghana. It was traded in by the Dutch in 1704 as a gift. You said as a gift.
Yeah.
Wow. So they just inherited it into the chieftaincy process. Got it. Wow. That's
because even if you think about many different things that are coming from the Dutch, like Blisco, you know, the wax fabric, wax prints.
Yes, exactly.
They're all, those are all things that are inspired by Ghanaian or African culture, but now Dutch were able to incorporate it to bring in a new idea. Or you could say stealing the idea as well. So it depends on how you want to view it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that last names and just like the connectivity. I think that like Hene, with your work, it's opening the door for so many different facets of research in the Ghanaian culture, because it's like last names and like what is it? How does it connect to the different regions? I think it's is it 16 regions in Ghana? Okay, got it. Got it. Yes. And I think it's just important to like. I love that, like with Hene, it's like really about the preservation of the Ghanaian culture and like actually amplifying it to the world. Because there's a lot of things I don't know, and I know for most folks they're coming into this, they don't know, and especially like second, third generation being, you know, us being displaced in so many different facets of the world. We're now returning back to Ghana to try and figure out where our lineage is, asking our elders and trying to figure out this journey. So I thank you for that, to be able to do this work. How has been the sentiment? I mean, this is more of a personal question, but like from your family, like how have they taken to your work and how have they contributed to it?
I mean, my mom loves it because in a way, like even for my grandfather, there was only one photo of him that we had since his funeral. And so she feels that in a way she wants to be able to have Hene be a way to actually find more information about him. Because the interesting part about me is that even though I'm from the Volta region, but Hene is an Ashanti name, you know, it's an Ashanti term. And so people always ask me, oh, how are you in Ewe, but you're doing a project that's really focused or using terminologies of the Ashanti, Twi, and everything. But digging deep into my family lineage, I found out that my grandfather, he was the Fusu Hene. So whenever you have Hene, that means it's an Ashanti term, so it's king. But he was a Fusu Hene in the Volta region.
Okay.
And but usually if you're in the Volta region, you know, their chiefs will be called Tobe for their
Okay.
chiefs.
Oh,
But
okay. So it's a
we had,
different, totally different name.
yeah. And so in a way, so my mom was telling me that like my great grandfather, my great grandmother, there was like there was a war between the Awas and the Shantis. And
Mm-hmm.
so from there, that's how our family got kind of placed between
Okay.
the Awa and then Ashanti. So my
Ashanti.
grandfather has his lineage also kind of goes into the Ejesu in the Ashanti
Mhm.
region, but we don't know
Got it.
exactly where. So that's something that you
Mm-hmm.
know my mom hopes that Hene can help help us trace that
Yeah,
back as
to,
well to see okay
exactly.
where does that lineage actually follows, because we know so much about
Mm-hmm.
you know us, our family in the Volta region, but then
Mm-hmm.
there's something that's a little bit empty about okay where are we actually located in Ajesu in the Ashanti
Mm-hmm.
region. Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
I
and I
wanted
think yeah.
I wanted to touch on that point because as we, there's so much going on with the, returning back to Ghana and
Mm-hmm.
folks really tapping into their genealogy of their
Yeah.
family. I love that story that you
Yes.
said with how your mother was talking to you about, her father. That's her father, your
Yep.
grandfather.
Yes.
Have you had any stories as you've been curating and collecting that folks have been actually been like, hey, like I see that picture, like that's actually a relative of mine? Can you
Yep.
can you speak a little bit about
Yeah.
that?
Yes. I love. Yes. So that was when I first had that experience. It was kind of scary. I was like, oh wait, because in a way, it's just like, am I doing a good job of actually
Mhm.
showcasing and presenting these legacies? Because in a
Mhm.
way, like yes, I can continue to post photos, but these photos are also going to connect with people's families. It might be their
Mhm.
grandfather, their uncle, their great great uncle, their grandmothers, their great great mothers. You know, so it's like
Mhm.
it was a scary feeling at first. I'm like, I don't know if I'm able to actually do as much as I can to get as much information
Mhm.
that I can about them. But then it's also been like a really good journey for me as well because I'm able to connect more with individuals who are following my page, and it's literally we're becoming a Hene family because now they're saying, okay, you posted this information, but also I had this one photo that you could also post that's also the
Nice.
same photo, but during a different event, and so it
Mhm.
makes it makes it actually more happy, and you know it kind of eases that like kind of pressure
Uneasy.
to saying
Yeah,
okay
yeah.
yeah because I'm like, okay, maybe I'm doing something right that people are actually saying that okay, they're finding their family members or they're finding someone that has a similar surname as them. Or even in the comments, people say like, "Oh, that's my uncle." Like, "Oh no, that's my
Wow.
grandfather." Like, "Oh, that's my grandfather
Yeah.
too." So it's like a small family reunion in the comments as
Wow.
well. Yeah.
I think that that's what's really comforting to me is the fact that you've been able to organically create a community where people are
Yeah.
actually connecting like organically
Yeah.
via online
Yeah.
via research, and it's like happening in a very grassroots way. So it's like it's
Yeah.
actually connecting the diaspora, like people are like, oh wow, that's a relative of mine. um
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you more to segue into see Henny's goals and mission and looking forward the trajectory. What are some ways that folks can support See Henny, or what are the recent accomplishments that See Henny has experienced during your time in Ghana? I know that there was a
Oh yeah.
museum that you were mentioning about.
Yes, my ultimate goal in life is to be able to build a Sihani museum or have many
Mhm.
Sihani museums in different regions. But I really want to have one main museum and research center because I
Mhm.
started the project as my research, as my graduate research, and I feel like there's
Mhm.
many students that actually do want to do this research as well. But a lot of times when you come to Ghana, or even if you're in Ghana, it's hard to actually find where do you go to find this information. So you can't just
Mhm.
go and talk to a chief and say, okay, I have this project, because you have to, you know, be welcomed. You have to present yourself in a way that they're like, okay, now we can talk to you. Or
Mhm.
even if you're going to, you know, the archive databases or even the museums that are there, you
Mhm.
can't just walk in and say, okay, I'm doing this research, and then they're going to give you a book of everything. So sometimes
Yeah.
it's really hard to actually find like all the places
Mhm.
that you need to go just for your research. And so I really wanted to be able to create a museum and a research center where maybe not all of the information is there, but some of the information that I've collected can be found. And even students from through all different ages can come and actually, just be able to interact with the history in different ways. Even if it's little kids being able to walk around and see, photos of their grandfathers or great grandfathers, or just seeing photos of history, because a lot of times those are not accessible. Yes.
I just wanted again to take this opportunity to thank My Basics. They're all natural skincare company, and they are aiming to have all natural skincare deodorant, as well as a full suite of personal care products. So again, thank you, My Basics. I also wanted to take this time to say that Black and Couple TV, if you haven't followed us, please be sure to follow us at Black Couple TV on Instagram. We will be sharing way more content related to the diaspora, related to the Black experience. So thank you again for everyone that's joined us and tuned in. And finally, thanking our guest, Rita of Hene. Again, as she mentioned, she is the founder of Hene, an organization that is dedicated to preserving the chieftancy and traditional culture of Ghana.
Hi. I don't know.
Oh, no worries. So I was gonna close out with our question: how can folks stay connected if they have information to share with you? How can they support you? Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So you can email me at information@chene.com. So info@SIHENE.com. And then send me a DM on Instagram, Chene, SI.HENE. And those, or even if it's a personal email, Rita@chene.com as well. So those are ways for you to contact me. But then also, if you want to submit archives or just have information, I have an archive submission form that's on our website, which is chene.com, where people can submit their archives as well to continue the storytelling of the chieftaincy.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rita. And again, I mentioned that we will be sharing this information. Again, contact Rita, chene.com. If any submissions to further her work, you can go on chene.com. That's SIHENE.com. And then is there any, just a final thought, is there any other information you would like to share for the people, accomplishments, things that you're looking forward to, projects you're working on right now?
Oh, yeah. So even for myself as an artist, to be able to give more presence to Hene, I'm having all these exhibitions in different places. And so currently I have an exhibition, a group exhibition curated by Nana Ofiata Ayem in Germany. And so that's exciting. There'll be more exhibitions happening as well, even in Ghana. If they're part of Afro, I don't know if this will be out before Afro-Coachella or after Afro-Coachella. I'll be part of Afro-Coachella as well, displaying some of Hene's images and my umbrellas. And then as I'm building Hene's museum and building the database of even collecting objects, collecting artifacts, we have a GoFundMe where people can donate money, or even if they want to even donate equipment, or they donate any information that they feel that will be valuable, they can always email me as well for that too.
Perfect. That's beautiful. Yes, this will definitely be shared before next week's festivities in Ghana. Again, Rita, thank you so much. The mission and goal of this series is definitely to, like I said, have people like you that are in the diaspora, whether they're immersed in Ghana right now or on the continent in Africa. Our goal here is to literally amplify those voices through Black and Couple TV. So again, we thank you. And also too, if you have other folks that we would love to interview, that would be amazing. So again, thank you so much. We wish the best for Hene, and we would love to stay connected. So again, thank
Thank
you for
you.
your time, and we'll segue out. Thank you, Black and Couple
Yes.
TV. See Hene.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.